Hello! Today's guest was living the dream. His pastel portraits were in demand, his workshops were booked, and his art was being shown around the world. But behind the scenes, there was a feeling of burnout and being on the road, missing time with family, and today living a different life, having created an online business teaching thousands of people around the world through courses and memberships, which he's able to do from the comfort of his own home, mainly. This episode today, I brought in a wonderful friend of mine to share the moments that changed everything. We're going to have a conversation about the amazing, amazing power of art and how you can build your art career and your own art pathway that feels aligned with what you want to do. So welcome, Alain Picard. It's so good to have you with us. Hello.
Hey, Michelle. It's great to see you, friend. How you doing?
I'm really good, thank you. We were a little bit late, so apologies to those tuning in live. We had a technical hitch, but we're here and we're very excited. Alan and I were talking actually a while ago. Alan was a guest inside my membership and did the most incredible art demo. And
Oh,
after
thank
I
you.
heard, yeah, no, it was awesome. And after I heard Alan's story, I was like, you need to come on the podcast. We need to talk about this. And what I love about bringing artists in to share behind the scenes is we often hear, the ups, the downs, and the little things sometimes that, the plan that we have and it doesn't go that way, but it goes this way. And here's what's magical now. And that's why I love sharing all of this goodness. And we were talking about where this conversation might go as we voice messaged each other the other day. And we got really excited about this conversation of art and the power it has on all of our lives. So let's get stuck in. Alan, yay!
Hey, so good to be here. Yeah, I think all of us have what we imagine our artistic journey might be or a certain aspiration, but
Mm,
rarely does it ever play out quite as we have imagined. And that's one of the really beautiful aspects of life, but also that process of unpacking
mm.
our artistic path tends to happen at these key junctures in the road. I've certainly seen that for myself. So I'm happy to share and start wherever you think is most appropriate. But the journey's been kind of amazing along the way.
Yeah, let's start with where you are right now. So I think if we can
Sure.
get a sense for who you are as an artist, what your life looks like as an artist right now, and then I think we can unpick the journey and how you got there in
Yeah.
about an hour, which we probably need a week to unpick it. But
Yeah, sure. In about a week.
yeah.
Well, so I am currently, so my primary medium, just so everyone knows, is actually the beautiful pure pigment of soft pastel. And I teach artists all over the world how to create loose, expressive paintings in pastel. Now, I tend to really help through gateways of landscape and portrait painting, but so I have a fall landscape painting course in pastel. That was kind of the first big online course experience that I was able to bring to really to the online audience, and then a portrait course as well, which just wrapped. We just wrapped our spring pastel portrait course. Really fun, like kind of a realistic, but with evidence of the hand, brushy, loose kind of style. And then I lead a monthly membership called Cultivate, where this is for alumni of these courses, and we actually every month are learning a different topic, and we go through landscape, still life, floral, portrait, figure. We really develop our foundations, and then also kind of move into the exploration for each artist as their unique area of expertise or their unique area of interest has them wanting to develop into specific categories. So that's really rewarding. I just absolutely love the opportunity to work with artists who are in various stages of their journey, from more of the beginners, often call us apprentices when we're just learning the foundations of our craft, through that exploration phase, and then also into really where we want to establish ourselves in either a niche or in a marketplace. But my dream come true, perhaps, Michelle, is that I'm able to do all this from my home studio and get to reach people through this magic and miraculous medium that we live in of, online streaming and delivering our content on the internet. So it's just wonderful. I used to travel all over the place and meet artists in a room, and that is really amazing, really powerful. But it's also difficult when you have kids and family commitments. There can be tension there in terms of the balance, and I still really love to do that. And I still do some destination art workshops, but like one of my kids is graduating high school and about to head off to college this year, so I was able to clear the schedule so I could be here and really help as a family us to make that transition and not miss these opportunities before he's off in school, and then who knows what's next, right? So that is such a gift and such a dream come true that I'm so grateful for.
Yeah, especially if you've come from it being so different, where you were taken away from home life so much. And I share the same values. In fact, that's why I entered the membership world, because I wanted to be able to pick my children up from school. It was just as simple as that in the beginning. And so you've impacted all these people's lives. And I would imagine that where you are now and your art being something that's evolved too, which I'd love to
Yeah.
talk about. So I think where you are now with your art being so, I feel like you're in your zone. You can kind of, when we watched you doing your demo, it just feels like it's just, oozing out of you. It feels effortless. And
Thanks, Michelle.
yeah, you can tell you're in your zone of genius.
It's so fun. We just this month we've been in Cultivate. We've been doing sort of like timeless figures, period drama. Imagine Downton Abbey hits the surface of our pastel boards, and I happen to just because I do so many things. This is actually like what I've been working on this month. Can you see the painting? It's kind of an unfinished, but you see this lovely woman and some sketches, and I call her the lady in waiting, kind of Edwardian era woman, but just lots of fun. I thought you might, as artists, we like to share our artwork, right? So
well, I was thinking, those who are listening to the podcast, by the way, we'll drop the link below so that you can see the visual that Alan's just shared on the screen. And I was thinking, what a shame that we don't have your artwork. And there you are, like magic. You press the button and it's like there.
Yeah, the other, I thought if there was anything, there's those points in the road in our lives where everything changes. And I have a few of them, and certainly, and I just want to say to everyone as well, the challenging seasons of our life are so precious as artists. Don't waste the challenges. Don't waste the suffering. A lot of times we want to rush through the suffering or the difficulties and get past them to the dream, to the thing I really want. But I have discovered on my journey that it's in the place of suffering, challenge, difficulty, squeeze, tension, call it what you will, resistance, that incredible things are born if we will be open to them, if we will kind of open our eyes, open our hearts to what might be. And, my boyhood dream was to be a left-handed pitcher in the major leagues. That didn't happen. And that's a very good thing, right? I mean, I remember halfway through college, realizing my college baseball coach being like, you're going to enjoy your college years. And just with that death of a boyhood dream came the birth of something new. I mean, I was in I was in an elective drawing class for fun because I knew I could get a good grade on my elective drawing class, and the teacher just almost within the same week that my coach told me it wasn't going to happen, I wasn't going to get drafted someday, she threw her hands in the air and says, "What are you doing? You could teach this class right now, the drawing class." And it was like a startling shock to me because I thought, well, what does she mean? But she was frustrated because I had all of this natural gifting with drawing and I wasn't applying myself the way that she hoped. So that's where my art major kind of intersection point came. That was my juncture point where the scales fell from my eyes. I started to look at what was possible and pursue art. And it took a lot of evolutions from there, but that was a really beautiful moment. And I imagined myself, Michelle, that I was going to be this illustrator who like did work for magazines and books and all this stuff. And I started there, but that wasn't quite the right fit. You know, I got out there, I started doing that work, and it didn't feel quite right. Everything needed to be done the next morning. It was very fast, and I could see with digital media that it was shifting. And if you really wanted to paint, that might be challenging, right? To really do the kind of work that was significant. So I shifted gears into portraits, and I always loved connecting with people. And I had a service side to my kind of temperament. So portraiture really became my first real professional endeavor as an artist, just painting kids, lots and lots of kids. And those pastels, I learned oil as well, because they told me, you know, oil was the medium of the masters. Of course, you got to do that. But the
Yeah.
pastels had the magic. And it was such a joy, really a gift. And paint a picture, sell a picture, paint a picture, sell a picture, that one-to-one model. And then I got into galleries, paint a picture, sell a picture. And galleries are wonderful, but it can be challenging, and it has a lot of highs and lows. If any of us have experienced that, those of us who've worked in the gallery scene, just when you get things going, the doors can close on a gallery, or you've got to forge a new relationship. Anyone who went through 2020 would have experienced that as well. So there are really exciting aspects of that, and really positive. I have peers who do a wonderful gallery business. So, but for me, I
Yeah.
could see that one-to-one model was still something that was challenging for me.
There's also, I think, sorry to interrupt, but I was just going to say on the gallery front too, is there is a restriction to in terms of what you're creating as well. So sometimes because you're serving the client base there, and so you kind of lose that artistic freedom a little bit too, with the, you know, just want to paint.
That successful thing, right? So you do all this work that you're excited about, and then one of them is the one that 5 people will want to buy. You know, the 5 people want to buy one of your paintings instead of one person, one unique person buying the 5 paintings, right? And then so they want, can you do another? Can you do it? So you end up doing these series of similar works that are much more marketable to an audience, and that, on the one hand, can be a blessing, but then it can feel at times for the developing creative artists like a bit of a challenge to just stay in that lane.
Yeah, a bit like a slave to the system almost. Yeah.
My biggest sort of wow in that season, which was, so if I were to go back around, you know, the early 2000s, so the whole 2000 decade, 2000 to 2010, I was finding myself as an artist. I got married at 2001 to a European, wonderful German woman, and she's my art business partner in life and family, and she runs everything with me, keeps the trains on track, as I like to say. You know, I had to learn how to, you know, get onto some German systems and processes, Michelle, but I'm better for it. But in that season of like the 2000s, you know, I'm in a room alone, painting, doing what I think I'm supposed to do. And it's like, I can feel that I'm not fully living what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm thinking, I'm at the easel, I'm in galleries, I'm painting commissions. Like, how is this not, you know, I actually got published in magazines. I remember young, and they were like artists on the rise, artists to watch. And it was weird that I was like, what's missing? What's missing? Well, now that I look in the rearview mirror, I'm a very interpersonal, very relational person, and that was missing. I wasn't encouraging other artists and people. When I got into groups of artists, I loved that. And but I just was so resistant to teaching or any form of like becoming a teacher. I thought, well, if I can't do it, I'm going to have to teach it. I saw it as a failure, and that was wrong. It was 100% a you know, a limiting belief that I had that needed to go, and it is long gone, thank God. But it took the market crash in 2008, the housing market crash. I couldn't sell a painting. I couldn't get a commission. I mean, it was tough. And we had so as we moved into 2009, my wife's pregnant with our second. We had a 3-year-old, and she's still working a job to sort of, help out. She was getting some of the health insurance, and she looked at me one day, Michelle, and she said, "You are burying your gifts in the ground." She said it very, in this soft, kind way. Actually, it came kind of hard toward me. And it is exactly what I needed to hear. It was that like loving word of like, wake up, you're burying your gifts in the ground and you can help people and you're not doing it. And now we're struggling financially. I was getting all these workshop and requests and saying no to them. So I said, okay, she's right. And I tried to shift my heart and my mind on that and step into that. And that set me into the next decade of like lots of workshops and traveling all over the world, um, which in one sense was very exciting and very fulfilling. And I learned that there was a teacher in me that loved and felt so much fulfillment in helping others grow and develop and flourish in their creativity. It's really exciting to see. But it was to go and pick up a paycheck in a different zip code all the time is not easy if you are trying to raise a young family or be present to certain things. So that was the challenge there. And I just want to pause. I know that like we're focusing on like how the courses and the memberships really did provide this stability and this amazing life of being able to help people from right here. But I tell you, I had a moment in going way back where I was doing those gallery pieces, and this relates, Michelle, to your comment on, the kind of work that we're able to do in a gallery, or, will a market sort of be open to work that we're really passionate and inspired by? Because I think it's so important for us as artists to pursue our curiosity and to move into things that we're really excited about, that we're really connected with. So in 2005, I've always been very involved in my local church, and there's actually a whole decade of my life where I was on part-time on staff there. It was a really wonderful way to kind of create a little stability and be part of a community. And that was a big part, again, this relational sort of side of me. But in 2005, there was an opportunity to go to Africa, to go to Rwanda, and be a part of this new relief and development work in this culture that, in this place that had gone through genocide and was now rebuilding. And there was some beautiful programs, and we were partnering and giving a lot of resources to an organization, I think, called World Relief. And so I was really excited that that story could somehow be told by creative people. Like, how are you going to tell the story here in Connecticut? I live in New England, in Connecticut. And how are you going to bring that to life? So I remember talking to some people, you've got to bring that, you got to send creative people over there that can tell the story. And sure enough, they said, well, you go, come with us. So I went to Rwanda, and that, Michelle, was such a powerful experience for me. I came back and started painting these portraits of Rwandans and did a few little landscapes. I was really a portrait and figurative artist at the time. It was so powerful for me, the connection point between art, humanity, and this notion that we can see beauty on the other side of brokenness, right? So you have a country that's been ravaged by genocide, and they're trying to rediscover their own story. And as with artists' eyes, being able to look and see the beauty that's there in the midst of what often can be the ashes of our lives, right? And that was, for me, so incredible. I actually have, if you want to see a couple of them, I have a couple of images of the Rwanda stuff.
Love to.
But this piece was the first one I ever did. It was called Empty Cup, right when I came back. So I would have done it early 2006. My wife and I went back there together with a whole group of young people to Rwanda. But this one I did was the first one, and it actually sold. Actually, this one was donated to raise funds, sold to someone as a donation. But a number of these pieces I was showing in a gallery here in Connecticut. And to my shock, these paintings began to sell, and they began to really resonate and speak to people. This is a child that I met in a little clay brick hut sitting on her mom's lap. And I think her mother had HIV, because we went and saw they were like victims of the war, things that happen that are just horrible. This little guy, but you can see these paintings were just, this is a
Wow.
really large figurative work, 3 foot by 2 foot. It's not that big. It's pretty big, but it's
Yeah.
life size when you see it. So it really impacted. This painting sold in a gallery, and I was shocked by that. I thought, how do you do this kind of thing in, but there was like a resonance, right? And here's a little sweet guy who was I met him on one of these mornings with mothers learning to feed their kids, vitamin nutrient rich porridge out in the middle of nowhere in Rwanda. It was so powerful. There's a tea plantation. I actually got to stand there in the morning. Did this one as a commission, I believe. But you can see this is one of the early pieces that I did that had so much power. This was actually, I met this little girl when my wife and I were together. She has a banana wreath hat on her head. But I
Wow.
did not know it would be possible that I could do work like this, and it be in a gallery setting. So we learned things along the way, right?
You were just
Over at,
following the heart, yeah, and then
yeah,
yeah.
these little guys. Some of these paintings opened doors for me that that I had never imagined, and it was actually just pursuing my own passion to reveal the beauty. This is that same child. I came back and painted her again, and this painting sold years later. Wow, just looking at her, I remember her in Kigali, Rwanda, just walking around in that tattered little dress. She was
Mm,
this little princess,
yeah.
But so
Yeah.
I just kind of wanted you to see some of that stuff and enjoy that. I have some more. I actually, back in 2015, I went to Cambodia and kind of pursued this. I started calling them my reflections of hope, and
Mm,
just kind of how can we as artists, because of how we're uniquely wired in that we tend to, first of all, we have an aesthetic orientation. We're very connected and open. I think we tend to see, we see the beauty that's around us natural, like we're kind of tuned into it, right?
mm,
So we have the capacity to ignite hope and renewal through our creativity, through our
yeah,
art and our
yeah.
artistry. And it doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be saccharine or pretty. It can in so many different ways, right? We can see
Mm,
this,
and
but
raw,
that
yeah.
it's really powerful. And I just that
Mm.
I wanted to, I just felt like if I could show anything, it would be some of those reflections of hope
I
paintings.
know. I want to know more about them, Alan, in terms of in that moment when you were. I'm just trying to imagine you in that situation and gathering all this amazing visual stimulation and the stories I
Mm,
would imagine. And I'd love to just unpick a little bit more about that, like what that process was like for you as an artist to be in that place, absorbing that, and then choosing that moment of this is the one I'll capture next. I love.
yeah. Well, I think that when I was in Africa and meeting people and also visiting some of these like mass graves and um, meeting people who, like I said, meeting women that were mothers and just powerful people in their villages and communities, living with challenges. Many of them that they brought us to meet with HIV/AIDS, they were victims,
Mm,
of what happens in war,
yeah.
getting raped, getting all these things happening. So anyway, being up and close to that was for me, sort of a very sacred, very powerful experience. And these beautiful people, and to see their joy and to see their resilience and their vitality, that just stirred something inside of me. And so I wasn't really like, I didn't consider myself a photographer. uh, But after that, I really started to change because I wanted to bring all that home. So I took so many photographs in Rwanda. I tried to capture as many of these people as I could. And
Mm,
we got to share a lot of that in the community back at home. But then that became reference for these paintings. And it was like every time, like an image, you can reconnect, and you can reconnect with that memory, with that moment, and you're drawing from that, from the even from the studio here in Connecticut. I felt like I was so connected to that experience. Then I started getting into more video the next time. When I went to Cambodia, I had gotten more skillful and was able to capture even video and stills, which was really powerful to tell the story, and then continued to paint. But I think for me, just being able to like highlight, hey, everyone, it's like, you don't want to be propaganda or like that kind of thing, but to say, look at this treasure here that nobody wants to pay attention to, right?
Yeah.
And so by highlighting it with our artistry, we're able to elevate to a high form of attention, if you think about it, right? Things that circumstances, things that people have no attention for, right? Or weren't paying as much attention to. And there's always these things happening in our lives. They're happening in our neighborhoods, they're happening in our communities, they're happening certainly in our world all the time. And so, this was something like that stirred inside of me, and I kind of discovered it along the way. And I think for me, Michelle, that was what was so powerful about it. And when I was at the easel, there was a whole nother level of meaning when I was creating. It's one thing to create a beautiful figure painting, but for me, that connection point like leveled up significantly, having that paired with it. Now I love painting portraits of all kinds of people, but and I can connect to the humanity in anyone, right? But that was really special for me. And it happened again when I went to Cambodia, where I was able to I loved just walking around in these sort of, whether it was slums or villages or the middle of the city. And, I would always try to have some kind of local guide or advocate, so I didn't do anything really stupid. I'm sure I did a number of things that were pretty stupid. I could tell you stories, but it was like, that was so powerful for me to kind of experience not the tourist resort version of a place, but the reality, and where can you find beauty and hope on the other side of these really painful stories.
It's incredible. I'm
Yeah.
curious to know more about the process too of, did you go enter that situation, that place, with the opportunity arising, with the thought process of going there to gather this inspiration and use it afterwards? Or was this an evolving process of the opportunity arrived, you're immersed in it, and then it evolved then into pieces when you got home? I'd love to know, like, were you waiting there? Did it happen afterwards?
Absolutely. I mean, that first trip to Rwanda, it was like a seed of an idea where I was like, I was used to our community being like, sending some people, they would go have a great trip, come back, and somebody would go up on stage and talk about it or something. And I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, bring imagery, bring video, if you show us, if you're trying to raise money to like change lives in Rwanda, it's going to raise so much more. I just had an instinct about it that it would raise more. And so they were like, fine, you go, meanwhile, I'm not even like, I'm an artist. It was kind of silly, but I tried. And so I was very much there, with this mission to capture stories, to capture compelling, powerful images, and to bring them home. So we did an exhibition of photographs and paintings pretty quickly, and told stories, and you could really see them. And that was very powerful. Our community had like a 10-year relationship. I think we still do, with the Great Lakes region of Rwanda, Congo, which is obviously crazy now, and other places. That's what led me to Cambodia. But when I went back there, Cambodia, it was like we had already done this at a level, and now let's try again. And we leveled it up where I was able to capture like video and interviews and stuff, and then we did more of the exhibitions. There's a nice artistic, creative culture in my church community where now there's lots of artists doing these things. It's really neat, or there's a whole kind of it's normal to sort of see paintings and photographs and all kinds of things like that. So yeah, I was very much intending to bring those stories home. And I think that I think some of the, like when I would say, I want to go, I remember in Cambodia, I wanted to go to these, I knew that there were these slums in the city where, you know, kind of nobody went, and I wanted to go there. And I was able to get, actually, here's a painting. See this little girl?
Mm-hmm.
I met her on, they were like boardwalk slums, like slums over murky water. It was pretty tough, you know? And this little girl was like stringing up a hammock for her infant sibling while her mom's in the room, and every imaginable difficult thing, was happening in these communities. But she was just so sweet and she was so beautiful. I called it window of opportunity, and it just was like seeing her through those bars. Those bars just really struck me.
Yeah.
So anyway, this was one of those that I actually, I'll find one more. There's one more I really want you to see. And it's this one here.
See the
This little girl is
Oh.
so stunning. She's so stunning. There was a whole resettled community that got kicked out of their homes, so they could build these other buildings, and they got resettled. And it's one of those most impoverished locations that you could find in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. And there she was, one of the most stunning girls. And if you're this pretty and young and poor, you are at high risk, right? So she would be at high risk because of the sex trafficking industry there, and that's a big part of where that was an aspect of where we were trying to help. So this little one was just she just broke my heart, man, and yet. So this one I think is harder for me to look at, and maybe harder. It's just a little more honest, but really, really beautiful.
Wow.
But I wanted to go to those places and sort of sit in it. It's like when you go to a memorial service, right? And it's like we don't naturally as humans want to face that part of life, right? And yet sometimes when you face that, it wakes you up to what is truly important and how you really want to live your life. You meet someone who survived cancer or they've gone through, they're like, oh, I'm not wasting any more time. Like I'm going to live my, and there's something about that. And so for me, it was really, really powerful to go through these experiences and tell these stories and be able to reveal beauty on the other side of brokenness and participate in meaningful work that, very practical. I mean, things that we were helping with are very practical things, helping with malnutrition and, stuff like that. So
what I love about this whole experience that you've had is that it reminds us all of course, the power of art, because you're bringing it back in a different context and bringing us to stories that we hide away from and helping us see things in a different way that we want to hide away from. But also there's something really incredible what I'm hearing here about the amazing part of being an artist that helps us ask questions, that helps us want to go into that place with the artist's mind of how can I depict this, or what's going on here, and what does this say, and now how do I want to articulate that in my work. And I just want to pause for a minute and go, isn't that amazing that we have that ability to want to take something and then depict it, portray it into something else physical, transformation, and how not everyone can do that, and not everyone has the capacity or the the thinking behind that to be able to be in that situation and then think, how can I turn this into art? And I just think it's so incredible. I'd love to know also, I can hear that it's really changed you internally, your mindset, your your outlook, how all the things emotionally. I'm curious to know if that body of work in particular has influenced the future work that you've created, especially aesthetically, or like have you seen a big shift there in the type of work that you went on to create?
I've thought so many times, like, do I need to be doing more of that? But I think that was those were these precious moments of opening up for me to understand, certainly a different, to see some things in the world, and also that is a mirror to look at ourselves, right?
Mm.
And to see what we value, what we see as important. And so I just want to say, like, I've also come to being at peace with how powerful and how beautiful it is to paint a flower well, a landscape well, like the simple moments of life, to slow down and be present, to, just listening to the birds chirp outside, and even as an artist, being able to respond to that. Like, we don't have to go to the other side, to far-flung places, to
Mm.
create meaningful work. And
Mm.
for me, that's, been really true as well. I think it 100% changed me and how I relate to the world and myself and others. But I've also been able to really embrace everyday beauty, and I think that is so important too. Is we the things that are around us. What's so amazing about artists, Michelle, is that we can walk through the most ordinary place, and because of how we see life, we can help people engage that and see the extraordinary. So we're
Yeah.
able to take the mundane and really bring the magic out of it, the ordinary, and make it extraordinary. And it's like the way light falls on, the simplest of things, and the ability to aesthetically frame something in a pleasing design, the way in which we can craft something with excellence in our sculpture, or in our art making practice, texture, these things just elevate and help others to relate to the world with a more sense of its preciousness, of its uniqueness, of its beauty. And so that for me is really, that's something I'm constantly aware that I want to encourage and stir,
Mm.
nurture in others, and certainly in the communities that I have an opportunity to be a part of, because we don't know how much impact we can have just in the small creative acts that we think of. A note, like a lovely note that you wrote to someone, or a little tiny sketch and you gave it to someone. It has an impact on them because of the thoughtfulness and the presence of it,
Mm.
And so we as artists can be like this army. I call us agents of restoration, if we so desire. Of course, we can focus on what's not there, and what's not enough, and what's not good. And I've had lots of hours spent that way. Or
Mm.
we can, take this opportunity to show people where beauty lies. And I think that word beauty doesn't have to, again, be
Mm.
saccharine. It can be an honest truth. And that's really powerful. So yeah, it's definitely changed me in how I see the world. I don't know what my next assignment will be, but I try to just treat it all with, I think we can treat all of our subjects with dignity and with a great sense of respect and honesty, and just continue to see that way. And then, it's really
Mm.
powerful.
One of the biggest questions artists seem to get asked, especially as an established artist, who, Alan, when we look at your work, we can see it's yours and you have very distinctive elements in it that, you know, that
Mm,
people might describe as finding your voice or finding your style. And
mm,
we know that's ever evolving, but we can see it all sitting together right now.
yeah.
And one of the questions that gets asked a lot is, how did you get to that point? And were there any kind of moments going back to the beginning? And I know that one of the first pieces that you created was a deer, wasn't it, in the seventh grade? And can you just highlight some of the moments maybe that led you to be fascinated with people? And
Yeah.
I know that you have this amazing ability to coordinate colors, like everything pops. And
I think that, so often when it comes to those things, right? You just said, Alan, you have this ability with colors. Isn't that the way so often, is someone calls out what they see in your
Mm.
work and you're surprised by it, right? You're like, I do, right? Oh, thank you. So I think that's one of the powerful aspects of feedback and community, is that you have this gift, if you'll receive it,
Mm.
of learning what's uniquely special about what you do, right? And I had to learn. So there were things I was drawn to, and I was always drawn to people. So I can talk about that. And even with that seventh grade deer in art class, where they had pastels, and I picked a picture of a little deer with fuzzy antlers, and I was fascinated by that animal, and it was its head, right? And I also was doodling comics on every book that I had, and I was an immature boy for a while, of course, and all those things. But like, that was powerful, and I got a lot of feedback for that deer. They hung it in the hallway of the school, and people were like, wow. I remember doing, like, I shudder to say this now, but I did a graphite portrait of Bill Cosby. Now, this would have been like the 80s at some point, and people were amazed, and he was still this amazing guy then. you know but people were like, wow, it looks so realistic, blah blah blah. And you get that feedback. Moving
Yeah.
into the college years, I declared an illustration major on the guidance of the chairman of the art department, who became my mentor and was very much like, he was a successful illustrator because of he thought my drawing ability would be appropriate for that. Well, every illustration assignment, and I turned into an opportunity to paint someone's face. Itzhak Rabin's, a former Israeli prime minister's oil portrait. I went to uh, the Bronx in New York and just like painted street kids. That was actually like a precursor to the Rwanda thing. It was like me just going into the streets and like connecting with people, capturing them, and then creating paintings out of it, and feeling a lot of humanity in that and a lot of connection. I really loved that. So I think that I received encouragement when I would paint portraits, and especially as I started to do things. I remember painting um, from photos of places I had never been, like a couple of pieces early on, and people being amazed by them. And that, I always thought, wouldn't it be great to go somewhere someday, long before Rwanda. And
Yeah.
so I think listening to the feedback and the encouragement of people in our lives is like, it's like breadcrumbs leading you and helping you to understand what's unique. When we think about our voice, I mean, I don't think I can like muster up my creative voice and sort of, it's not an intention. It's, for me, I think the most powerful thing we do is we chase curiosity. So what are you fascinated by? I loved faces. And then, like, creating a lot of them, a lot of anything, it is bound to release your voice. It's bound to, as you just create, and others will tell you what's distinctive, and then you can lean into that. Like, I was covering over some of my uniqueness. I was really, to your point about color, my mentor from college, who I stayed in touch with early in my career, he was like, you're better than me at color now. And this was in college. He's like, I'm not good at color. So I do these things to, solve that problem. So I didn't understand that, but I thought, okay, well, let me lean into that. And so it was really fun to then learn more about color and then use that in my work more and more. That's one of the most exciting things that I do now, is to get to color combinations and mark making. And for me, mark making and sort of really leaving bold marks in the painting was a journey of me sort of laying down perfectionism, which was really hard for me, because not coming from an artistic family, not coming from a world where artists existed. There was no one in my life who was a visual artist. There was no one. I did not have one person. I was like, that person's a successful working visual artist. No one. So I carried this "I'm going to prove it to you" thing with me. And one of the ways I tried to impress people was realism. And realism's beautiful, right? Like, I'm not anti-realism, but what I mean is I was over polishing my work, and I was editing out these beautiful marks, thinking it was important to impress people with the realism.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I was rushing past the stage of the painting that was exceptionally beautiful. And I had some trusted voices in my life. My wife actually has been one of those voices, who were like, stop, stop, leave it alone. It's better. Actually, that was cool, Michelle, and doing demonstrations for students, so like adult students.
Yeah.
I'd have these workshops, I'd have people in my studio, and I'd meet all these wonderful artists, and I'd demonstrate something, and at the end of the hour or two of a painting, they're like, wow, that's so exciting. And then I would go and finish it during the week, and they'd come back and see it, and they'd be upset with me. Like, what did you do? It was amazing, and now it isn't, you know? I was like, oh, no, but isn't it more realistic? And that's how I actually learned, like, leave it alone. Like, and I had to come to the realization there was an interior surrender that needed to happen of what, when it's okay, like when it's okay for me, when I'm connected and I think it's like it's communicating its message and it's beautiful now, I don't need to go any further for someone else, right? And as a commission
Ooh,
artist,
love that.
always for the parents, like the parents always wanted to see a very polished version of their child, of course, and that's beautiful, right? And they're not artists, they're parents of kids who are paying for a portrait. So I kind of learned like that's what I needed, and I had to unlearn that.
Mm, mm,
So to have the courageous and honest sensibility of, you know, why am I doing this and what is it that I'm after? And when I get there, can I lay down my sword? Can I leave well enough alone? Because I don't need to do these other things for other people, right? Whether that's the gallery owner. And of course, in real life, we have to do things for our bosses and for our clients and for our, so that's an aspect of, if you are a working professional artist, you may need to make edits for the client. You may need to make, you know, certain accommodations for the agent or a gallery owner. But that's one of the beautiful things about creating your own personal work that's only
mm,
for you.
mm.
Even if it's like a notebook that no one sees, and it's the little paintings and sketches in there, they're just they're between you and the notebook, and they're precious. That can be a really powerful exercise as well, you
Yeah,
know.
that's a good point. A sacred place where you can just be so free, a bit like a journal where you can just say your words without judgment. But then I
Mm.
also love the flip side of what you've just said there about having those trusted people, having community to share that, to get the reflections back of, oh, you're great with color, or how about you try this, or I liked this before, and then you assimilate that into what you want to pick and pull and push away, and that's finding your voice, isn't it? What everyone's kind of seeking in some way,
Oh
shape,
my
or
goodness, I totally, and it is so hard, especially when you're apprenticing and you're just trying to learn the foundations.
form.
You're not going to see what someone a little further up the road is going to see in your work. Like, you have to learn to develop those aesthetic senses and become aware of some of these things, right? Whether it's color or proportions or edges or whatever it is. And the power of community, it's like it accelerates your growth, literally, where you can accelerate um, the path of development through being in community with trusted sources who have your best interest, who will give you feedback. And then on the other side, as you get into that stage where you really need to explore your voice and kind of you need to wander out a bit.
Yeah, yeah,
That can be scary, and there's a lot of mindset stuff to that that can be challenging, and you can feel like, you know, you can't discern what's good from bad, what's the right truth. It's hard. So having a couple of sojourners with you who will encourage you along the way, or you can come back to camp and connect with camp, so to speak, right? To you know, maybe you've gone to the studio, you've gone off on this exploration, and you feel like you've just wandered out into the wilderness. You have no idea where you are. Maybe you can show your wanderings to a couple of trusted sources, and they can, a lot of times that can be so grounding and encouraging and really help you to understand what's happening. Where I have had so many experiences with artists where I'm like, can I tell you what I see? And I'll just look at a handful of their works, and they are shocked. Like and it's to me fairly obvious, the through line that I can see in their work, but they're not yet aware of it. And then that's like rocket fuel, because now they're like, oh yeah, I do love that. And I love, you're
yeah.
right. Right? And then they're just off and running at another level. So I think that's, it's the both and, where if we're going to find our voice, we have to be courageous to be willing to go out into the unknown a bit, but
Mm.
also to come back to camp and to unpack and to have support and feedback. It is always going to help you to grow faster if you're willing to do that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We had a member meetup a couple of weeks ago in Edinburgh, and one of the people who met us said, I just feel like my work is all over the place, and I said, show me some pictures, and it's just what you said, and I was like, oh, this is the same here, and it was amazing that sometimes we're so close to our own work that we can't see it ourselves, and so I love that so
Yeah.
much. Usually there is something in everything pulling together aesthetically or even behind the scenes. I think one of the other things that people question and would love to know from you, Alan, is now you've set up this incredible business, you're teaching thousands of people through courses and your membership, and you run these events. How do you find the balance?
Mm,
How do you find time for what we've just been talking about, your own private work? Is that still important
yeah.
now for you? And your own work versus what you're teaching? How does all that come together?
Well, that's a great question. And I think that as an artist and as a human being, we live life through seasons. The story of our lives unfolds in chapters and pages, right? And to be aware of the season that we're in, and also not to beat ourselves up if we're not in a different season, right? So, like, I think of a young mother. She's a young mother. You know what I mean? Like, that is a really precious stage that we want to honor. So we might not have as much free time at certain times in the day during that stage of life, right? And for me, in this stage, I have realized, wow, I'm in a unique season of my life where, I've had years where I had huge amounts of free time to explore, and I suspect I will have them again as well, because I have friends who are in there. I'm 51. I have friends who are in every decade, and I was just talking to a dear artist friend who's 75, and he was just encouraging me about how much time there is ahead of me, exciting creative years, and I was like, wow, that's really exciting. And he's doing amazing things at 75.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, the reason I say that is I'm really trying right now where I was resisting my role as educator, teacher, encourager, artist. I'm really embracing that right now. And I am in a season where I'm a breadwinner, where, the kids are, I've got a kid going off to college and I've got another one on the way. So it is an important time to be present to that.
yeah,
And that will change too, right? So
yeah.
right now I'm I think so much is like, I will let myself know it's okay, give yourself to this. And
Yeah,
then I will really enjoy the times that I have where, like, first of all, I get to just pretty much make up topics for our monthly membership.
yeah.
We have a suggestion box. People let me know things that are exciting, but I can
Fun.
have so
Yeah.
much fun with that and do all the time. So
Mhm.
that's been really great. And then just sometimes just taking that evening and sketching or painting for myself, and that can be really rewarding. And sometimes for me, because of the busyness and fullness, allowing myself to I was just away for the weekend with friends. We were in Block Island, which is a beautiful island off of Rhode Island. It's a little tiny island off of Rhode Island, and it was a beautiful weekend. We encountered seals on the beach. They were sunning themselves, hundreds of them. It was like amazing. And it was super inspiring.
Mm.
The sun, the sunlight, the way the grass was moving in the wind, the lighthouses, the way the architecture was. I'm an artist. I'm taking all that in. I didn't paint it all, but I was taking it all in while being at rest and also with friends. And that was really powerful. So we need to allow ourselves those moments too.
Mm.
So that's where I'm at. I think understanding the balance. My temperament is very project based. So, like, when I have assignments and projects, I'm very, I give myself to them, and I'm like, that becomes a mission for me. And
Mhm.
so, I'm really excited about in the fall when we do the landscape course again. that was 2019. That's when that was this critical transition moment where my wife and I launched this online landscape course. Well, I hope somebody likes it, and it was this big success. And
How did you transition? I was just going to say, sorry to interrupt, but I'm just wondering, when did you transition to online? Like, was there something that prompted that?
Yeah, for sure. But to finish my statement, we're reshooting it right now, so we're going to recreate it. Here's how it started. I wrote a few books. These are like books I did with Walter Foster back in the day. The most recent is this drawing book. This was the first one, Pastel Basics. It was like way back. I learned how to this is a drawing book that I did just in 2016, Mastering Pastel. Anyway, that kind of was like my entree into educational stuff, right? Yeah. I took the assignment. I needed the money.
Yeah.
Thought great. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed kind of breaking apart the process and, exposing the process. And I'm a talker, as everybody is seeing. I was getting to, write it down, verbalizing the process. And that led to, at some point, an invitation to do, like, at the time they were DVDs, video-based lessons with an art publishing company. So they flew me out to Ohio. We shot a series of portrait videos, and they did really well. And that kind of put me on the map, I guess you could say, because it was the very, very early days. They actually launched a streaming model, but people were buying DVDs, right? And all of a sudden they came up with this crazy idea that you could aggregate all of them and have a subscription to everybody's DVDs through this streaming model. Anyway, when I got on that set, Michelle, and they've put those lights on me, I was like, ooh, I like this. And I don't know what it was. I mean, like, I loved being on the baseball mound when I was a kid. Like, I loved being at the center of the game, and the pressure was on me, the attention was on me. And then this was this thing, right? Where now it was like, oh, okay, they put the camera on me. And I was able to combine art, performance, leadership, and communication. I think probably some aspect of that. And it was exciting. And those did well. And then that Artist Network TV stuff that I did is kind of what put me on the map for workshops. I started getting invitations from far-flung places. I mean, I would get called from other continents, like, will you come and teach a workshop here? And I've still got these invites all over the place that I haven't made on. And there's lots of years left. So that was like, ooh, okay. But let's be realistic. Like, you're not making a real living off of some other art publishers, anything. Like, I don't think anyone's ever I don't know, maybe, but it's, that's one of the challenges, just to wake up to the fact that if you're not if it's not your publishing company, if you don't become the publishing company, you're probably not profiting in a way that's significant. So
yeah,
I just was like, okay, I would get some, quarterly royalties. I was like, this is silly, right? And we've got to figure this out. There's got to be a way that we can publish our own content. So in 2017, my wife and I started a terrible YouTube channel. I mean, the first videos are awful, And then all through 2018, I would try to do about a video a month or something like that, maybe more. And that was us just trying to learn how to do it ourselves. And you can go to Alain Picard, YouTube channel. There's lots there, and it's gotten better, thankfully. But we actually built our platform, our audience, Michelle, there. Like, those YouTube videos became the platform. I started building a list through some lead generators, like, what pastels should I use? What paper should I use? Different things like that, helping people, and really positioning myself as someone who could help artists that way. And then we thought, okay, let's do it. Let's try to create our own course. And I learned initially from Amy Porterfield's Digital Course Academy, really early stage of that.
Yeah.
And pretty much just kind of walked through that, and then launched our course in September of 2019. And because we had been doing the YouTube stuff, that's what kind of built our audience. where people were excited about this offering, as well as truthfully, the years of in-person workshops, right? Helping people
Or
all over the
compound.
place
Mm.
and really understanding my ideal customer in terms of like the students that I'm positioned to help with Pastel. I had helped so many people, 18 people in a room all over the place for so long. I really understood how, the challenges and obstacles that they would have. So that was a big deal too. So that's how it went from kind of in person and doing things for other publishing companies and books and videos, to really becoming our own kind of publishing company and publishing our own creative content. And once that did well in the fall of 2019, we never looked back. And the pandemic actually helped. We launched the membership in the pandemic because everybody was locked at home and looking for more ways to do meaningful things. So we launched the founding member launch for us was, I remember it was May of 2020. A cohort from my landscape course just graduated. They said, "What's next? You can't leave us. Don't leave us alone." And we launched this vision of Cultivate, a monthly membership community. We'd learn every month, and we'd never look back. It's 5 years of it straight now, 60 months of creative content.
Yeah.
And a
Wow.
wonderful community of people. It's just been really
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. And I would imagine you've got so much from it. I know, having a membership myself, I've learned so much more about myself and people, and being around different people, and all the things that all of this brings. And I know that it's not for everybody, but I've really, really enjoyed having a membership and having a community to be around, for sure. So it's been really amazing for you to be doing the same and to be impacting all of those lives now, which is, I mean, isn't Alan great, everyone? Just drop a comment below. I think your heart, that you can just tell how much passion you have, which is why I was so desperate to have you on the podcast, because this whole topic, and it's called Your Art Matters, you just eloquently describe so well. So thank you.
Oh goodness, and it really is true. I mean, that is core to there's a lot of things that motivate human beings, right? And there's a lot of different reasons why an artist would be motivated to paint or draw or sculpt or anything, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
I've realized in this season, and I do think a mission can evolve. There's probably going to be, a through line, but for me, empowering artists to awaken to their creative potential and bring renewal through their art is rocket fuel for me. And so whenever I'm connecting with that and having experiences where I see that happening, it is really, really powerful. And so I get a lot of life out of teaching. It is exhausting at times, and there's a lot that goes into it. However, all work is exhausting at one level or another. You're just trying to find the version of it that brings you great meaning and fulfillment, and that you can make the most impact, Lord willing. And that's, for me, been so significant to see people who did not, and I know, Michelle, you have this experience over and over again, and it's such a beautiful aspect of what you get to do and encouraging others. So we can just preach to the choir here with each other, but to see someone not consider themselves an artist and yet have this longing inside of them, this dream inside of them that they've been carrying for who knows, whether it's a year or a lifetime. And for so many, we see that that's the case. And then to begin to connect to that and to begin to nurture that, and then to see how they come alive and they become more fully who they are. And then, and to see not only what it does to them, but what it does to the people in their lives and to their communities. And then as they get more intentional with that, it gets really exciting. I'm like, I've got real-time stories unfolding with fellow cultivators who are like starting, art associations in their communities that are having exhibitions that are donating to domestic violence, to any meaningful anything, right, that you can think of. That one happens to be on my mind because it's one of my members' stories that's real time right now.
Yeah.
One of I just interviewed a gentleman who is who for 10 years went into the children's hospital in Detroit, Michigan. And he did it once a month, and he would go in for a full day once a month, and he would paint. He would really draw Conti portraits of kids. Now, the kids in this hospital were, really tough stuff. And he would do about 8 to 10 portraits a day, or he'd get 10 names. He might get 7 or 8 done of that list that day. He would give that portrait to the family. He would not photograph that portrait. He would not tell that story. It was 100% for them. And he said, Alan, I got so much more out of that experience than I gave. I received so much more from that than I gave, to look in that child's eyes and to see them see themselves as valued, as seen, as having dignity. And these kids, maybe, who knows what they were going through. So those are amazing stories, and I just love it, and I love to see people painting beautiful things, whatever they are.
Yeah, that is super. I was going to ask you why art matters, and you've just answered it so beautifully. That's how we usually end the podcast, and so what an amazing ending. And
Can I say, if I were to distill it down, Michelle, why does your art matter? People cannot encounter beauty without experiencing hope. So it's just a byproduct of it. So if you create something of excellence, we're going to use the word beauty, and you can define that how you want, and you share it. When someone encounters that work of art, they're lifted up, they're lifted up, and they experience hope. It's a byproduct of that encounter with beauty. And I think that is so powerful in this world that we live in. And there are so many consequences, positive consequences to that. It is a very, very, very important act to engage with our art, both for the personal experience of becoming who we are meant to be as artists who are called to create, and also for what it gives to the communities around us, in terms of renewing and bringing hope.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Hasn't this been the most incredible conversation? One thing that I've took from this too, Alan, is this sense of, I know it sounds really corny and cliche, but it's like following your heart. You go into that to these in places, and you're not sure why, and you're there and you're thinking, am I supposed to be the person for this? And then your friend just sharing that artwork, where sometimes we can get in our own heads thinking, should I be paying for this? Should I be doing this? Because if I do this, maybe I could be doing something else over here. And if it feels right, then find that space, and it's the becoming.
Walk through the doors that open for you. There was a door there for me, and I walked through it, and I didn't know. We never know if we have what it takes in those moments. We don't know, and we will tend, and the little voices of intimidation will chirp away. So for you fellow artists out there, it's going to look unique for you and your story and your experience. So, but as the opportunity emerges, walk through the door, and take advantage of that opportunity to create, and maybe co-create, co-labor, where there's a way that you as an artist can come alongside of someone, a person, an organization, an institution, an agency, and lend your uniqueness as an artist to that experience. You will make it better. It's beautiful.
Couldn't you listen to Alan all day? Thank you so much for taking time out.
No. Yeah. Well, it's my pleasure. It's a joy to talk and to share. It's
wonderful.
Always wonderful to share these things.
For those who want to continue following Alan, we will put all the links underneath this replay, but can you just let everybody know, Alan, whilst we're talking now, where people can go?
Yeah, sure. My website's picardstudio.com, and I have a whole Learn with Alan tab that you can check out. There's some,
wonderful,
great stuff there. But right on the landing page of my website is there's a free Painterly Edges lesson that you can sign up for. There's a whole underpainting mini course, I think, on there. And then YouTube, I think, is a great place where you can go and find lots of exciting things at Alain Picard. My name is my YouTube channel. My name is my Instagram handle. So pretty simple.
We'll put all the links below if you are watching the replay
Thanks.
of this. Yeah. Wonderful. What an enriching conversation. Thank you so much to those who tuned in live, those who are watching the replay. Thank you so much. And thank you to Alan for being here, sharing all of this amazing insight into why art matters. What an amazing conversation. Thank you, Alan, so much.
My pleasure.
Take care, everybody. Bye. Bye.